So the first thing is, I always try to encourage my team not to worry about things that haven't happened yet. And I try to I try to remind myself about that too, because in
Right.
general, I think, we as humans probably spend way too much time worrying about something that hasn't happened yet, or knowing something's going to change, or there's something unknown in the horizon. It's immediately like right to the negative, right? Like you
Yeah.
immediately go to the worst possible scenario of what can happen, and then in your mind you think that's what it's going to be. So one of the things that I'm really big on is this notion of this: if it hasn't happened, don't worry about it, right? Let's not worry about things that haven't happened yet. And two, if we know that there's a potential problem, or if we know that there's something coming up that's beyond our control, let's think about how we can have an influence, right? Because I
Mhm.
am a big believer that you can't always control an outcome, but you can always have an influence.
Mhm.
So I think as long as you're able to think about what can I be doing that can have a positive impact on what the ultimate outcome should be, then you should do that thing, because it's going to
Mhm.
give you it's going to give you the biggest chance of success. And so I feel like I'm kind of a broken record on that one, and don't
Mhm.
get frustrated,
Mhm.
right? I see people very often getting frustrated about things that maybe they have happened, right? Or maybe they haven't happened yet, right? But if it has happened and it's frustrating, you maybe take a step back and try to think about, where is the opportunity for me to help improve the situation?
Mhm.
Because you could complain and you can vent all day long, and that's fine. It's like everyone needs to do that. There's nothing wrong with it. But I think as you kind of progress in your career, especially as a leader, I think one of the skills that you have to really think about and get comfortable with is when there's a problem, or when there's something that just doesn't seem like it's going in the right way. Think about either what can I do to influence the situation, or is there anything I can do to help provide a solution to the problem?
Mhm.
And I
Mhm.
think when you start to think about things like that, I think it makes it easier to deal with the unknown, or to deal with change. And the other thing I think people just need to understand and be comfortable with is change is inevitable. It's going to happen. It's a guarantee. And
Right.
instead of running from it or being scared, or not wanting to go through it, embrace it. There's a lot of good that could
Yeah.
come from change.
Right.
And I just think it's important that people, realize that it's normal and it's natural to
Mhm.
get, worked up or concerned during unknown situations. But at the same time, I think it's something just that we need to step outside of our comfort zone and learn to be comfortable with. That was incredibly important, right? The company saw a mission. We had to go after that. The second piece of it, and I think this is one of the really interesting things that happened when I look back at that time, and we had to work remote, and there was a lot of uncertainty and unknowns. I think my team actually got a lot closer during that period. I think people really started to rely on one another and communicate more. And we started intentionally meeting up to not work, whether it's managing up or communicating down. I think to me, it's, being transparent, being honest, and communicating early on is really important. If you're going to miss a deadline, or you're going to run late on something, or you need more time, right? Don't wait until the moment it's due
Mm.
to say there was an issue or you needed help. Like, that early on. Like, once bring it up. One thing, we have something similar coming up. We should talk. And then the other thing that we do are once a quarter. We usually do it the last month of the quarter, usually around the last week. We'll have a live designer research
Mhm.
readout, where designers get 5 minutes, researchers get 10 to 12 minutes. We've talked about that. Like researchers
Right.
definitely need more time to
Right.
talk through what they're
Right.
doing. But it's a live open webinar for the entire company to join. Every designer will go through and talk about what they're working on, and what their team's working on. But again, it gives the team a stage. And I think,
Mhm.
one, it helps the team learn how to present more at that executive level, because you don't have a lot of time, but it also brings exposure and a spotlight to everyone on the team to highlight something that they're working on. I guarantee you, any designer or researcher in 5 years from now is going to look back at something or a problem they face today, right? And something's going to trigger some type of response is going to help you in that moment. But being able to step back and realize what are the soft skills, what are the things I need to think about that go around being a good researcher and designer, and how do I get good at those things? There's so much good content out there now. There's a lot of free content. And I think, self-study is a huge part of what everyone should be doing. Like they say, 70% of what you learn comes from showing up for work every day and doing the job. 20% of it comes from how you communicate and collaborate with other people, and 10% are the things that you're doing on your own, whether it's going to conferences, whether it's self-study, whether it's listening to a podcast, but identifying those things that can make you better and proactively doing those things. And you can't always rely on your manager or your leader telling you what those things are. It's something you need to be thinking about and, kind of understanding what's important to you and where do you think you need to become better. And that 10% is incredible. It's the smallest percentage, but it's probably the biggest in terms of what's important, because the other 90% is naturally coming to you because you're going to work every day and doing your job. Yeah. I mean, I think CEOs are there for a reason. They're smart people, and they most likely they understand the company really well and the industry really well. Just because they don't have a design background doesn't mean they don't have a perspective or an insight that is incredibly valuable, and quite often it could be right. And designers often, it's something I've seen a lot throughout my career, is the CEO says we should do something this way, and I'm the designer and I think we should do it another way. Let's listen to what they have to say, because maybe there's something right there, or maybe what they're trying to say is actually going to, spawn a new idea or decision that we didn't think about. So I would think about it more in terms of listen, try to understand what that person is really trying to express to you, ask questions about why they think in the way they think, and try to work together to come up with the right solution. But I think it's something that for whatever reason, I think there's this kind of natural thinking that when an executive gives an opinion on design and they don't have a design background, is probably not right. And in reality, I think there's usually something there, right? That's helpful, whether it's prescriptive, which obviously no one likes, but it happens, or if you ask the right questions, you kind of get to the root of what they're saying, and then it helps you design the right thing, which is ultimately going to satisfy what they're looking for.
What are some of the top advice you have for UXRs who are first researchers at their company?
Yeah, so be a researcher, spend time with stakeholders, talk to everybody who you think you're going to work with in the business, and talk to people who you don't think you're going to work with in the business, and ask that, and understand their expectations. What do they understand about research, right? And you probably will be surprised at what you find. There will probably be a mixed bag, right? So you'll probably have some education to do, and maybe a little bit of selling to do. But I think talk to people and understand what their expectations are, and fill in the blanks of the things that they don't know that you could bring to the table. I think that's really the first step. I mean, every company, again, is unique and different and has a different set of problems. And when it comes to process or how to start a new team, it's not a cookie cutter thing. Yeah, it's be empathetic, learn, really take the time to learn about the different personalities on your team and how you have to approach and talk to those people in different ways, and help guide those people in different ways. It's a crazy world today, right? More so than ever. And I think that's something that we just need to learn how to embrace, and look for the opportunity, or understand how we can be a positive influence for the outcomes that we're looking for, rather than turning from those things or running from them, or letting the fear of what hasn't happened yet dominate how we're actually feeling. And I would say the last thing is step out of your comfort zone and try new things and get feedback. And research is not only about learning about a digital product, right? Research can also be done when it comes to how you communicate and the type of process you use in your teams.
I think that's a big takeaway for me. that's my big learning is, treat communication, especially communication outside of your team, as a research study. Like, what can we do better?
Yeah.
How can we get better at that storytelling? That's it's clearly a huge part of a designer and researcher's job. So